Dear brothers and sisters, let us address some of the questions which came this week.
How can we remain positive despite the happenings in the world around us?
The key is to realize that we as an individual have been given an opportunity to get off the wheel of transmigration. We as an individual have been given all that is needed for us to truly know ourselves and to know God. And that if we keep our focus on what we are supposed to do here, then our attention will not go on anything else. The mind is putting negativity into our system because the mind does not want us to reach our goals. And so the key is to try to get to that state where we realize that we need to fulfill the purpose for which you come into this world. Okay? And as we start to focus on why we have this human birth, then we realize that as we know ourselves and as we know God, then we'll find the connection with the Creator. And as we find a connection with the Creator, our attention goes into being closer and closer to the Creator. And our time is focused on reaching our goals, rather than our time be focused on the negativity which is surrounding us. So the key is to get to that state where we realize that we are in this physical world. Things to us might look to be good or things to us might look to be bad based on whatever our understanding is. But once we realize that our purpose is to know God, then we realize that there's a karmic play which is going on in this world. And the karmic play is very difficult for anyone to understand. So why things are difficult to us or to someone else, we might not be able to understand because there's no way for us to understand what karma is going on with other people. But if we realize that, okay, someone's paying their karma, they're going through a difficult period, some difficulties have come in because maybe they created some difficulties in the past life, then you ignore all that stuff. And you realize, okay, this is bound to happen, let me be focused on my job. As an example, many times, let's say you have a family with kids, and let's say there's a special program that is coming that you want to watch. Okay, you might have draws, from the family members or others to be pulled away. But then, if you want to see that show, then you just put that on the side, and your focus is on being able to see the show. So it's the same thing with us. Once we understand what is really our goal, then our total attention should be on that goal. And if our attention is on the goal, then nothing on the outside is going to be able to distract us. It's realizing what kind of life should we be leading. And once we realize that the kind of life that we need to lead is one which will take us to God, then I think we look at everything else as not being bothersome to us. Kabir Sahib has said very beautifully, he says, Avval Allah Noor Paya, Kudrat ke sab bande, Ek Noor te sab jag upja, kaun bhale ko mande. He says that God was there in the beginning, and from God came this creative power, and that creative power created everything. He says, who are we to say this is good, this is bad, this is high, this is low? It's just that as life goes on, because we're not able to understand things, we say, oh, this is good. If something looks to be agreeable to us, we feel it's good. If something not agreeable to us, we feel it's bad. Okay, so it's just our vision. But once you gravitate beyond that, then you find that your attention is on goal, and none of these other activities are going to bother you, and your life is going to be positive because you have homed into God, homed to the Creator, you're homed into the goodness, you're homed to everything that's truthful, you're homed to everything that's conscious, and you home into oneness. And as soon as you home into oneness, then there's no duality, so there's nothing which is different than you, and so there's nothing which can be negative.
How can we break unhealthy habits?
As a human being, we get very habitual. Things that we do on a daily basis, because it's easy to keep on doing the same things. We see our parents behave a certain way, we learn from them. We see our friends do certain things, we learn from them. So as we do it repeatedly, it just becomes a habit. And as life goes by, we find some of these habits are very useless, and some habits could lead to addictions, which could be very dangerous to us. And so the key is to understand what kind of life do we want to lead. Okay? If you look at the habits, the mind is habitual, and the mind is pulling us into those habits which will take our time away from being focused on a goal. Okay? And so these habits are taking so much of our time that we cannot focus on our true goal. Okay? Now, to break a habit, and they say that you need to change from there. You need to keep the change for a long period of time for it to work. And it is very difficult if you are in the habit of doing something to keep away from it for a long time. There's all this talk about 6 weeks at least, 3 months. There's all kinds of theories that people have. That if you want to break a habit, then you need to stay away from it for a certain amount of time, regularly, with passion, and then you do something which is better for you. Okay? And so the key is to first recognize that the habit that you have is not good for you. Okay? Most people don't realize that their habits are troublesome. So they keep on doing the same thing because they feel, yeah, we saw it happening before, it's okay to do this, and they live their life like that. But to realize that something is not good for us is the first key if you want to break that habit. Okay? If you don't realize that it's bad for you, you won't do anything to fix it. The next thing that happens is, once you realize the habit is difficult for you, then you need to figure out how do you change that. You should first try on your own to change it. Okay? And if you can work on your own, it's fine. If it gets to a state whereby you trying to fix your habit which is not good, you're not being successful, then it's good to get some professional help. Let's say you drink a lot of alcohol, let's say you smoke a lot, and then you try to break those habits, but you're not able to, then you should get professional help. Because there are professionals who help you in being able to break those habits. Okay? One of the things that helps, I think, is to look at whatever habit we have and see, is it leading us towards God? If it's leading us towards God, that's an okay thing to do. But if that habit is not bringing us anywhere closer to God, then we need to supplement it by being able to be focused on God. And by doing Simran or repeating God's name or remembering God, as we try to fix our problem, it becomes a great help. Because our attention then gets away from the habit that we are doing and is focused on God. And as our attention is focused on God, we get the love, we get the joy of being with God, and then everything else is not going to be troublesome to us. So the key is to be able to focus our attention in the right arena. And so I would say, first we need to recognize what the difficulty is. Then we need to find a mechanism of fixing it. And we try to fix it on our own. And by focusing on God and by defocusing on the habit, with time we should be able to fix it. And if we can't fix it ourselves, then we should definitely get professional help. Because once we realize that this habit is not good for us, then to keep on being habitual like that is not going to be helpful to us anyway. And so we need to be able to understand that difficulties, we get into habits, over time things happen. But with time we can get better, and we can keep ourselves in a state where things become such so that our attention is away from the habit which is troubling us, and our attention is going in the direction to fulfill the purpose of us being alive, which is to focus on God, to be able to be close to God.
How can we become worry-free?
They have this saying like, worry and hurry takes us to our grave very quickly. So we need to figure out, why are we worrying? Okay. We should look at the reasons of why we worry. One of the worries we have, whether the physical level, intellectual level, emotional level, or the spiritual level, is that we are not going to make it. People worry, maybe as we grow old we get sicker, we'll have trouble. People worry, those who have kids, are the kids going to be taking care of us? People worry, is the social security going to end, so we'll be in trouble as we age? People worry, will our loved ones be close to us? We worry about the future because we're not sure what's going to happen in the future. We have no way of knowing what is happening in the future. Now, why do we worry? We have no faith in ourselves, number one. We don't think we're capable of dealing with the problems. We feel we'll break down very easily. We feel that difficulties of life will overtake us because we don't have the strength or the infrastructure around us to help us through a difficult time. Okay. We also worry about the past. And we worry if things that happen which were contrary to what we expected, we worry. Will those things happen again in our life? Some other problem will come out in our life. And so worrying is because we are not finding ourselves to be stable. Okay. So one of the things to understand is that who is running our life? Are we running our life, or is there someone else running our life? And if we are running our life, then where do we get the strength to be able to deal with the ups and downs of life? Okay. Most of us might think that we are very stable, but actually we are very fragile. Okay. Why are we fragile? Because we don't have an anchor on which we are anchored. Our attention is in the physical world outside. We try to get support from others in the world outside. Everything in the world outside is temporary, nothing there permanent. So with time, the support that we might have is gone, for whatever reason. And also we're devastated. Okay. So to get out of the state of worrying, what is very important is to recognize that this life, 75% of this life is preordained. It's happening because of our past karmas. Okay? And those past karmas are going to play out in our life anyway. Okay? We can't help them, can't do anything about them. And what can help us there is we have an anchor in the Creator. So to have faith in God is very important to stop your worrying. Okay, we all actually recognize there's God. Okay? Whether we think of God as a power, whether we think of God as some kind of a form, But most of our traditions are telling us there's a Creator who created all this creation, right? And that's called God. And so, also, time and time again, we're told we're a part of God. Our soul is of the same essence as the Creator. Okay? And so we're an extension of God, we're children of God. Okay? And so once we realize that we're a part of God, then we should also know that our life is in the hands of the Creator. And once we get to that state, then we have faith in God. That God is taking care of us. Sant Rajinder Singh Ji Maharaj written a very beautiful verse. He says, "Nahi janta कि मैं क्या तुझसे मांगूं जो मेरे लिए है भला चाहता हूँ." He's saying, "Oh God, I don't know what to ask of you. Please give me whatever you think is right for me. Whatever you think is best for me." And so when we put our faith in God, then we know that God is the Creator. So God can do anything. And so once we have a faith in God and we realize we're connecting to God, then there's nothing to worry about. Because whatever happens in the ups and downs of life, it's under God's knowledge. God knows what's going on. So whatever is best for us is what is going to happen in life. We are not good judgment maker, let's say. Because we make judgment based on whatever our knowledge is. And knowledge is very limited. Because we just know about whatever we learn in this world, in this lifetime. But God the Creator knows our past, God the Creator knows our present, God the Creator knows our future. And so when we put our faith in God, then we are able to lead a life in which there is no worries. Because we then get to the state where we say, "Oh, God is going to take care of me. Why should I worry about anything?" I mean, it's difficult to get there, but that can happen as you meditate, that can happen as you connect with the divine light and sound of God, that can happen as you experience God in your life on a daily basis. And this is why so much emphasis is put on meditation. As we meditate, we experience the divine power within. As we experience the divine power within, we are then uplifted into the regions beyond. As we are uplifted into regions beyond, then we start to experience more and more of the revelations of the divine. And as we have more revelations of the divine, it's then that we start to feel comfortable that God is with us. Otherwise, it's only hearsay. We read in the books, we've heard about it, but it's the experience that counts. But once we have that experience and know that God is with us, then why are we worrying? Everything runs under God's control. Everything happens under God's will. And so if we live under that principle, that sweet is thy will, then nothing of this life, ups and downs, are going to bother us. So the key is to have the experience of God. The key is to meditate. The key is to, within ourselves, find revelations of the divine and soar into the inner spiritual regions. And then worries will fade away automatically.
How can we overcome the fear of death?
Death is a fact of life, physical death. When we look back at history, whether it's the life of the kings or the great philosophers or artists or anyone who's physically being in the human frame, there's always been physical death. So as a human being, when we're young and we're growing, we don't think about death. But then as we age and as we start to see that our grandparents or our parents and uncles and aunts and slowly so physically dying, then it starts to hit us that one day we'll die physically too. Okay? So we should, as we age, we need to realize that this life is limited. If it's limited for everyone else, it's going to be limited for us too. Our time in this human existence is going to be limited. Now, then when we realize that, then you start thinking, how do I make best use of my time here? Then that you start to dig into what is the purpose of life, what am I supposed to do here, how should I live my life? And as we start to ponder on that question, then comes in, okay, this is a good chance to get off the wheel of transmigration. And then through God's grace, as we come to the lotus feet of spiritual master, as we get guided into the mysteries of the beyond, we can start to take a spiritual journey. So the key is to realize that death is only at the physical level. It's the death of the physical body. It's not the death of a soul. Okay? That a soul lives beyond the body. And so once we realize that, then we know that this body is going to deteriorate, 50 years, 80 years, 100 years, whatever age we might have been given when we came into this world. That finally we are going to die, physically. But that's only the death of the physical body. But a soul lives on. So once you realize that, then you have to start to think, if my soul has this opportunity in this human body to be able to gain, to be able to get off the wheel of transmigration, to be able to be one with God, to fulfill the purpose of being alive, then let me do something to help the soul. And then you start to meditate, then you start to think about God, then you start to go on the spiritual journey. And as you go there and as you get into the inner spiritual regions, the joys of being there are put in a state of bliss. And you find happiness and joy like you've never experienced from anything in the world outside. Okay? So once you experience that, then you want to spend more and more time in that direction. And so once that happens, you then realize that physical death is not the annihilation of yourself. It's not the end of yourself. Then you're going to go beyond it. And once you realize that the physical body is different than the soul, which gives it life, then the death of the physical body does not affect you anymore. Because you realize that your existence is at the level of the soul. It's not that you've read about it, just you've experienced it. And once you've experienced that, then you're able to deal with physical death in a very, very easy manner. Because you realize that there was an opportunity for the person in their physical body to be able to know God. And so then you feel like it's the same opportunity for me also. Let me make the best use of my time here in the physical body. Let me understand my true relationship with God. Let me experience God and let me do things which will be beneficial for my soul as long as I have this physical body. Because it said that in this physical body, everything that we need to know ourselves and to know God have been provided. So all of that has been given to us in the physical body. We need to make use of it. And once we focus on that and start to make use of all that God has given us, then there is no question of any difficulty coming to us because of physical death. And we realize that is just like changing of a vesture, and it's not the end of our existence. So let us meditate for a few minutes. Please sit as comfortably as you can. Close your eyes very gently, just like you close them when you go to sleep. Your eyeballs should be straight. Focus 8 to 10 inches in front of you. And as you close your eyes, those of you who have been initiated in the mysteries of the beyond, please do your Simran. And those of you who are new here, please repeat any name of God that you feel comfortable with. The repetition of God's name should be done mentally and not out loud. I pray to God Almighty to help each and every one of us connect with the divine power then and to experience the divine light of God within ourselves. It's my prayer to the three great spiritual masters of the past century, Hazur Baba Sawan Singh Ji Maharaj, Param Sant Gopal Singh Ji Maharaj, and Dayal Pur Sant Darshan Singh Ji Maharaj, to help each and every one of us soar into the regions beyond. I will be sitting for a few minutes. I'll be getting out of this meditative state, and my best wishes are with each and every one of you. Please leave off. Please leave off.